Have you ever had someone close to you act all friendly, but deep down, something just doesn't feel right? You share an accomplishment, and instead of seeing excitement or pride for you, you get nothing. Maybe even worse, they try to downplay your success or shift the focus to themselves. What's going on? Why can't they be happy for you? You start questioning if something's off, and that uneasy feeling sticks with you. The truth is, this is more common than you might think, and these subtle signs can be incredibly hard to spot if you don't know what to look for. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden signs that someone close to you might secretly want to see you fail, or at the very least, can't genuinely celebrate your wins. And no, this isn't some over-the-top, dramatic scenario. It's often subtle, insidious, and you probably won't notice it until it's too late. We're going to break down these behaviors, and I'll explain how Carl Jung's powerful psychological theory, the shadow, can help you decode why some people act this way. Why do they behave like this? And what does it say about their emotional struggles? Spoiler alert, it's not about you, it's all about them and their unresolved inner conflicts. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot these red flags from a mile away. But before we get into it, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who could use a little insight into the hidden dynamics of relationships. And if you're really enjoying the content, don't forget to drop a super thanks. Your support means everything to us. Now let's jump in. Have you ever found yourself around someone who, on the surface, seems to be your friend, someone who smiles, laughs, and makes small talk, but something just doesn't feel right? There's a sense of discomfort that gnaws at you, an instinctive feeling that something's off, something dark hiding beneath their friendly demeanor. You might not be able to pinpoint it, but you can sense it. It's as if the words don't match the energy, and your gut is telling you that there's more to the situation than meets the eye. This sense of discomfort, this unease, is not just your imagination. It's a powerful insight into something much deeper. Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, delved into this very feeling. He referred to it as the shadow, the unconscious part of ourselves that we tend to repress or deny, yet often manifests in how we interact with others. According to Jung, the shadow represents all the emotions, impulses, and traits we refuse to acknowledge within ourselves, those darker aspects that don't fit the image of who we want to be. Yet, this repressed darkness doesn't just stay hidden within us. It finds a way to express itself, often in ways we aren't fully conscious of, and it's projected onto others. So when someone feels anger, resentment, or jealousy, they may not express it directly, but it manifests in subtle behaviors that often go unnoticed. These behaviors are what we call signs of hidden hostility. In this piece, we will uncover the subtle signs that someone close to you might secretly harbor negative feelings towards you, even if they go to great lengths to hide it. What makes this unsettling is that these signs aren't always obvious. They are subtle, but once you know what to look for, you'll begin to see them everywhere. Jung's concept of a shadow provides a key to understanding these behaviors. It's not just about the obvious acts of malice, but rather how the subconscious mind expresses itself when it isn't allowed to surface. These hidden emotions often manifest through actions that are hard to identify at first, but they become clear once we take a step back and observe patterns over time. So, how do you recognize these hidden signals? How do you spot when someone might be secretly harboring negative feelings towards you, even though they appear friendly? To start, it's important to remember that humans are complex creatures, and emotions, especially negative ones, are not always expressed directly. Let's take a deeper dive into the subtle signs that someone might secretly hate you. One of the first signs of hidden hostility is contempt disguised as irony. When someone is upset with you but doesn't want to admit it, they might cloak their disdain in humor. This is especially true when they make sarcastic jokes or cutting remarks that touch on things you care about or are sensitive to. For instance, imagine a friend who, every time you talk about something important to you, has a quick-witted comment that feels like a joke but also makes you feel small. They might laugh it off, saying things like, "Oh, I'm just kidding, don't be so sensitive," or "You need to lighten up, it's just a joke." At first, it seems harmless, but over time, if these comments are repeated, you may start to feel humiliated or belittled by these jokes. This repeated use of humor can be a shield for deeper resentment. In Jungian terms, these behaviors may reveal something the person doesn't like about themselves. Their negativity is projected onto you in an attempt to relieve their own internal tension. When they poke fun at your weaknesses or make sarcastic comments, they are indirectly expressing their own frustrations. Another sign of hidden hostility is subtle sabotage. Sometimes, a person might feel threatened by your success or growth, and instead of supporting you, they may unconsciously try to hinder you. This form of sabotage doesn't always manifest as blatant attacks, but rather in more covert ways. For example, imagine you're working on a big project at work or planning an important event, and a friend or family member forgets to tell you something critical. Or maybe they provide you with inaccurate information that ends up complicating things. It doesn't always seem like an intentional act of sabotage, but if these incidents happen repeatedly, especially at crucial moments, it's worth taking a step back and questioning whether they are truly coincidences. In these situations, the person might be unconsciously projecting their own fears and frustrations onto you. According to Jung, when someone feels inferior or insecure about their own situation, they might try to diminish yours to feel better about themselves. The third sign is silent competition. Some people, no matter how close they are to you, can't stand to see you succeed without feeling the need to outdo you. Every time you share an accomplishment or a success, they seem to find a way to bring the focus back to themselves. For instance, you might tell them about a promotion you received, and instead of congratulating you, they quickly share a story about their own career achievements or boast about something they've done that they feel is just as impressive, if not more. This silent competition is often a reflection of deep-seated insecurities. It's not about celebrating your victories together. It's about making sure they are seen as better, or at least equal, to yours. Jung argued that when people experience feelings of inadequacy, they often project these feelings onto others. They can't tolerate seeing you shine because it challenges their own self-esteem. Next, we come to superficial support. People who secretly dislike you may pretend to be there for you when you need them most, but their support is often empty and lacking. They may offer kind words or even show up at important moments, but their enthusiasm is forced or indifferent. For example, when you share an exciting achievement, they might say, "Oh, that's nice." But you can tell by their tone and body language that they aren't genuinely happy for you. Or when you need help during a difficult time, they may make excuses or brush off your need for support. Over time, this lack of true support becomes increasingly apparent. The person may appear to be a good friend on the surface, but when it comes down to it, their actions don't match their words. According to Jung, people who are emotionally disconnected from others often struggle to offer genuine support. They might act indifferent or cold, not because they don't care, but because they have difficulty connecting with others on a deep emotional level. Another subtle sign of hostility is control disguised as caring. Some people may try to control your life under the guise of offering advice or guidance. They may criticize your decisions or belittle your choices, all while claiming it's for your own good. For example, you might tell a friend or family member about a decision you've made, and instead of offering encouragement, they try to push you in a different direction, often making you feel unsure or incapable of making your own decisions. This control is hard to spot because it often comes wrapped in the appearance of care or concern. However, if their advice consistently makes you feel more insecure instead of confident, it's likely an attempt to manipulate you. Jung explained that people who feel out of control in their own lives often try to control others in order to mask their own inner chaos. These individuals may have a deep fear of uncertainty, so they try to exert control over others to alleviate their own anxieties. Criticism and gossip are also powerful tools for those who harbor negative feelings towards you. Instead of addressing their issues with you directly, they may choose to speak ill of you behind your back. This might manifest as someone spreading rumors or talking badly about you to others, which can lead to subtle changes in how others perceive you. For instance, you might notice that a once friendly colleague starts avoiding you or seems colder, and later, you find out they've been spreading negative information about you. This form of indirect attack can damage your reputation and undermine your relationships. According to Jung, gossip and criticism are often projections of the gossiper's own insecurities. When someone feels inferior, they try to bring others down to make themselves feel better. A person who secretly dislikes you will also struggle to feel joy at your successes. People who genuinely care about you will celebrate your achievements with you, showing excitement and pride in your accomplishments. However, those who hold negative feelings will often respond coldly or will try to downplay your success. For example, if you share a great piece of news, they might say, "That's nice, but it's not that big of a deal," or quickly shift the topic to something about themselves. This lack of joy at your victories is a sign of envy and unresolved internal conflict. Jung explained that people who are unable to rejoice in the success of others are often reminded of their own perceived shortcomings. Your success highlights their failures, and instead of celebrating you, they feel threatened and uncomfortable. Finally, nonverbal language can reveal hidden hostility in the most subtle ways. Even when a person tries to mask their feelings, their body language often betrays them. For instance, they might offer a smile, but it's forced. Or they might avoid eye contact when you talk about something positive in your life, or their posture might tense up when you share your achievements. These small, involuntary actions can reveal feelings that the person is trying to hide. Jung believed that while the conscious mind can lie, the body always reveals the truth. It reacts to emotions in ways that words cannot hide. And if you pay attention to these details, you can often discern how someone truly feels about you, even if they're trying to conceal it. In conclusion, recognizing these signs of hidden hostility is an important skill in maintaining healthy relationships. While these signs might be subtle, they offer a window into the hidden dynamics of human interactions. By understanding these behaviors and their psychological roots, you can better navigate your relationships and protect yourself from negativity. Hidden contempt disguised as irony is one of the most insidious forms of negativity that people often experience in their relationships. It manifests when someone subtly expresses disdain, but does so under the veil of humor or sarcasm, leaving the recipient unsure of whether the remarks were truly intended to be hurtful or if they were simply part of a joke. This type of behavior can be incredibly difficult to identify because it often appears harmless at first glance, especially when it's cloaked in the guise of a lighthearted joke. However, if you pay close attention to the patterns of these comments, the underlying hostility becomes increasingly apparent. People who engage in this behavior may often act as if their criticism or mockery is just playful banter, but in reality, it's a reflection of deeper, unresolved animosity. For example, imagine a scenario where you're having a conversation with a close friend about something that's important to you. You might be excitedly sharing a new project you're working on or a personal accomplishment, and your friend, instead of celebrating with you, respond with a sarcastic comment like, "Oh, that sounds really impressive. For you?" followed by a chuckle. At first, this may seem like a harmless joke, but upon reflection, you begin to feel a sense of discomfort or embarrassment. Their words weren't supportive, but instead felt like an attempt to belittle your achievements. When you call attention to the comment, they quickly dismiss it with a response like, "Come on, I'm just kidding. Don't take it so seriously." This immediate dismissal of your feelings is a key characteristic of this type of hidden contempt. There's no acknowledgement of how their words might have hurt you, only an effort to convince you that you're overreacting. This is where the line between humor and hostility becomes blurred. When someone expresses contempt in the form of irony, the recipient often feels conflicted. On one hand, the person making the remark seems to be joking, which might lead you to question if you're just being too sensitive. But on the other hand, the discomfort and unease you feel in response to the comment are real, suggesting that there's something more than just a playful jest at play. Over time, this pattern of repeated sarcastic remarks or teasing can erode your self-esteem and cause you to second-guess your worth or achievements, even if the person claims it was all in good fun. Carl Jung's theory of the shadow provides a valuable framework for understanding this behavior. According to Jung, the shadow represents the unconscious aspects of our personality that we refuse to acknowledge or integrate. These are the parts of ourselves that we deem undesirable or unworthy, and so we suppress them. However, Jung argued that this repression doesn't make these aspects of ourselves disappear. Instead, they remain buried in the unconscious, only to surface in unexpected ways, often through projection. Projection occurs when we attribute our own undesirable traits or feelings to others, or when we express emotions we cannot fully accept within ourselves in ways that seem to come from outside. When someone engages in contemptuous sarcasm or irony, they may be projecting their own insecurities or self-hatred onto others. For example, a person who feels deeply inadequate might make a joke about your accomplishments, not because they truly believe you are inferior, but because they're projecting their own feelings of inferiority onto you. They can't accept their own shortcomings, so they redirect those feelings onto someone else, albeit in a disguised form. This behavior is often unconscious, meaning that the person may not even realize they are acting out of a place of jealousy or resentment. Take, for instance, a workplace scenario. Imagine a colleague who constantly makes sarcastic comments about your ideas or work performance. They might say things like, "Wow, that's a bold move for someone like you," or "I'm sure that'll work," if you're lucky. These comments might seem to be lighthearted or playful at first, but they leave you feeling unsettled. When you bring it up to them, they might respond with something like, "I'm just kidding. Can't you take a joke?" This dismissal is a classic response when someone tries to cover up their contempt with humor. The key here is that the jokes are repeated over time and consistently target areas that are important or sensitive to you. This kind of behavior isn't just about humor, it's a manifestation of their own inner turmoil being projected onto you. Jung's theory suggests that these unconscious projections are a way for individuals to deal with their own unresolved conflicts. When someone feels threatened by their own internal feelings of inadequacy, they may lash out at others in subtle ways, trying to externalize their negative feelings. By making sarcastic remarks or belittling others under the guise of humor, they momentarily relieve the tension they feel within themselves. It's as though they're attempting to make themselves feel superior by putting others down. But the irony lies in the fact that their behavior ultimately reflects a deep-seated insecurity. This dynamic can be particularly harmful because it often leaves the victim feeling confused. The person who is being mocked might wonder if they're just being too sensitive, as the remarks are framed as jokes. However, over time, the cumulative effect of these comments can cause a sense of emotional erosion. The more frequently the sarcasm is used, the more the person may begin to doubt their own self-worth or feel as though they are constantly under attack, even though the hostility is cloaked in humor. This ongoing cycle of irony and dismissal can undermine your confidence and self-esteem, as you begin to internalize the message that your accomplishments, feelings, or even your identity are fair game for ridicule. What makes this form of hidden contempt so challenging to confront is that it can be difficult to pinpoint. It's not like someone is directly insulting you or verbally attacking you in a clear way. Instead, the hostility is camouflaged by the social acceptability of humor. This makes it easy for the person who is delivering the sarcasm to deny that they are being hurtful, since they can always fall back on the excuse that it was just a joke. In this way, the victim is left to question their own perception, feeling guilty or self-conscious for reacting negatively to something that was supposedly harmless. In many cases, the person who expresses hidden contempt through irony may not even be aware of their own motives. They might genuinely believe that they are just joking, without realizing that their words are rooted in unresolved feelings of jealousy, insecurity, or frustration. These feelings might be so deeply buried in their unconscious mind that they don't even recognize the harm they are causing. As Jung would argue, their shadow is speaking through them without their conscious awareness. This dynamic also reflects the complexities of human relationships. People who are unable to accept their own flaws or shortcomings often struggle to build authentic connections with others. Instead of embracing their vulnerabilities, they project them onto others, creating a defensive barrier between themselves and the world around them. In the case of hidden contempt disguised as irony, this defense mechanism takes the form of sarcasm and mockery, which allows the person to distance themselves from their own insecurities by turning them outward. Over time, it becomes important to recognize these patterns and address them. If someone repeatedly uses humor to belittle you or mock aspects of your life, it's essential to reflect on whether their behavior is truly harmless or if it's an expression of deeper hostility. It's also crucial to recognize the impact that this kind of behavior can have on your emotional well-being. While it might be tempting to brush off sarcastic remarks as harmless, the cumulative effect of these comments can chip away at your confidence and leave you feeling confused, hurt, and unsupported. The key to understanding hidden contempt disguised as irony is to pay attention to the emotional response it triggers. If the remark feels off or uncomfortable, even if it's framed as a joke, it's worth considering whether there's more beneath the surface. People who truly care about you will lift you up, not tear you down, even if they're joking. The next time you experience a sarcastic or ironic comment, take a moment to assess how it makes you feel. If it leaves you feeling belittled, hurt, or diminished, trust your instincts and recognize that this behavior is more than just a joke. It's a projection of the person's own unresolved feelings. Jung's shadow concept provides a powerful tool for understanding these dynamics. When we can recognize that the negative behaviors of others are often projections of their own internal struggles, we can stop taking these remarks personally. Instead, we can choose to respond with empathy and awareness, understanding that their comments are less about us and more about their own inner turmoil. Recognizing this allows us to maintain our emotional boundaries and protect ourselves from the damaging effects of hidden contempt disguised as irony. Silent sabotage is a form of covert hostility that is often difficult to detect at first, but it can be just as harmful, if not more so, than more overt forms of aggression. It refers to the subtle ways in which someone undermines or hinders another person, often without direct confrontation or explicit malice. This kind of sabotage can take many forms: withholding important information, failing to follow through on promises, creating unnecessary obstacles, or neglecting to fulfill their responsibilities. The intention behind these actions is not always immediately clear, but over time, the pattern becomes evident, leaving the victim feeling confused, betrayed, or frustrated. The person who engages in silent sabotage may not even realize they are doing it. Their actions are often driven by unconscious feelings of jealousy, resentment, or fear. In this way, silent sabotage operates in the background, gradually eating away at the trust and connection between individuals. A common example of silent sabotage can be seen in the workplace. Imagine you're working on a collaborative project with a colleague, and you rely on them for specific information. You've asked them to send you certain documents or details that you need to move forward with the project, but they consistently forget to provide them, even though they're able to share the same information with others. You may initially chalk it up to forgetfulness or oversight, but after a few instances, you start to notice a troubling pattern. They never seem to forget when it comes to sharing with others, but with you, the information is always conveniently forgotten. This is a classic example of silent sabotage, where the person may not even realize they are intentionally withholding information from you. In their mind, they may be too busy or distracted, but their actions are having a significant impact on your ability to do your job. Over time, this kind of behavior can lead to frustration, resentment, and a breakdown in communication. The reason silent sabotage is so insidious is because it's often disguised as a harmless mistake, a simple oversight, or a temporary lapse in memory. The person carrying out the sabotage may genuinely believe they're not doing anything wrong, and because their actions are subtle, it can be challenging for the victim to confront them. The victim might feel conflicted, unsure of whether they're overreacting or whether there's actually something more malicious happening behind the scenes. The person engaging in silent sabotage may also deny any wrongdoing if confronted, often responding with a defensive, "I didn't mean to," or "I didn't realize it was that important." The lack of accountability and the gaslighting tactics employed by the saboteur only make it harder for the victim to trust their own perceptions of the situation. This behavior can also occur in personal relationships. For instance, imagine you have a close friend who you rely on for emotional support. You share something deeply personal, perhaps an issue you're struggling with, and you ask them for advice or comfort. However, when it comes time for them to be there for you, they're absent or indifferent. They might offer you advice, but it's unhelpful or dismissive, leaving you feeling unsupported. Over time, you may begin to notice that they seem to have no problem being available for others in similar situations. But with you, they're always too busy or don't know what to say. This pattern of behavior can be emotionally devastating, especially when it comes from someone you trust. The subtle nature of the sabotage, being unavailable, unsupportive, or dismissive, is often disguised as a lack of understanding or a temporary absence, making it difficult to confront. In some cases, the person engaging in silent sabotage may not even be fully aware of their actions. They might feel a sense of envy or resentment toward you, but they may not be able to consciously acknowledge these feelings. Instead, they may unconsciously act in ways that undermine your success, your emotional well-being, or your progress. Carl Jung's theory of the shadow offers insight into why this happens. According to Jung, the shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we repress or deny, traits, feelings, or desires that we do not want to confront because they challenge our idealized self-image. These parts of ourselves are not necessarily negative, but they can manifest in unhealthy ways when they are not integrated into our conscious awareness. When someone feels threatened by your success or growth, but they are unable to confront these feelings directly, they may unconsciously project their unresolved issues onto you through silent sabotage. This can happen because they are unwilling or unable to accept their own feelings of inadequacy or jealousy. So they express these emotions through subtle actions that undermine you. For example, someone who feels insecure about their own achievements may struggle with the idea of celebrating your success. Instead of offering support or congratulations, they might subtly sabotage your efforts by withholding resources, downplaying your achievements, or even offering advice that leads you in the wrong direction. They may not even realize they're doing it, but these unconscious actions reflect a deeper internal struggle with their own self-worth. Silent sabotage is often a defense mechanism. The person engaging in this behavior may feel threatened by your accomplishments, your growth, or your happiness, but instead of confronting their feelings head-on, they take passive-aggressive actions to protect themselves from feelings of inadequacy. By subtly undermining you, they can avoid facing the painful reality of their own perceived shortcomings. They might not even recognize that their actions are rooted in jealousy or insecurity, but these feelings manifest in the way they treat you. The damage caused by silent sabotage is often cumulative. It doesn't happen all at once, but rather builds up over time as small acts of undermining accumulate. Each instance might seem trivial on its own, but the repeated nature of the sabotage creates a pattern that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The victim of silent sabotage may begin to question their own abilities, feeling as though they are constantly fighting an uphill battle, trying to prove themselves despite the subtle but consistent hindrances placed in their path. This sense of frustration can erode self-confidence and lead to a sense of helplessness. One of the most dangerous aspects of silent sabotage is that it's not always easy to confront. The person carrying out the sabotage is often skilled at masking their behavior, making it appear as though they're simply being forgetful, distracted, or unintentional. When you try to address the issue, they may respond defensively, brushing off your concerns with statements like, "I didn't mean to," or "You're overreacting." This denial can make it difficult for the victim to assert their feelings and hold the saboteur accountable for their actions. Moreover, The victim may fear that confronting the person directly will lead to conflict or that their concerns will be dismissed as insignificant. Silent sabotage also thrives in environments where there's a lack of open communication or a failure to address issues as they arise. In workplaces, for example, it's often difficult to pinpoint sabotage because of the hierarchical nature of many organizations, where individuals may feel reluctant to voice their concerns. In personal relationships, the fear of damaging the relationship may prevent the victim from addressing the behavior directly. Over time, this avoidance can result in the victim internalizing the feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt that the sabotage has created. To truly understand silent sabotage, it's important to recognize that it's a form of passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive individuals often struggle with expressing their feelings directly and openly, so they resort to indirect means of expressing their dissatisfaction or resentment. Silent sabotage is one of the most subtle and harmful forms of passive aggression, as it undermines the victim without offering any clear or direct indication of hostility. It's like a silent war being waged from the background, where the victim doesn't even realize they're under attack until the damage has already been done. The best way to deal with silent sabotage is to recognize the pattern early on and confront it directly, but with care. It's important to trust your instincts and acknowledge when something doesn't feel right. If you notice a consistent pattern of someone withholding information, failing to support you, or creating obstacles in your path, it's crucial to address the issue calmly and assertively. This may involve having a conversation with the person involved, expressing how their behavior is affecting you, and setting clear boundaries. At the same time, it's essential to reflect on your own feelings and understand why this behavior is affecting you so deeply. Are there underlying insecurities or fears that are being triggered by the sabotage? Understanding your own emotions will help you navigate the situation with greater clarity and confidence. Silent sabotage is a form of manipulation that can have long-lasting effects on your emotional well-being, but by recognizing the signs and confronting it head-on, you can regain control over your own narrative and protect yourself from those who would seek to undermine you. It's important to remember that the person engaging in sabotage is not necessarily a bad person. They may be struggling with their own internal conflicts and projecting their issues onto you. However, that doesn't mean you should tolerate their behavior or allow it to continue unchecked. By setting boundaries, communicating openly, and maintaining a strong sense of self-worth, you can break free from the cycle of silent sabotage and reclaim your personal power. Silent competition is a deeply ingrained and often subconscious behavior that can create an atmosphere of subtle tension in relationships, whether personal or professional. Unlike overt rivalry, where both parties are openly aware of their competition, silent competition operates quietly in the background, often going unnoticed until its effects become clear. It manifests itself in various ways, but the core idea is that the person engaging in silent competition cannot tolerate your success because it threatens their own sense of self-worth. The success of others highlights their perceived shortcomings and inadequacies, causing them to compete with you in ways that are often indirect, subtle, and even difficult to recognize at first. The most common sign of silent competition occurs when you share an achievement, and instead of receiving congratulations or support, the other person subtly redirects the conversation back to themselves. For example, imagine you're talking about a promotion you've recently received at work. You're excited about the opportunity, and you want to share it with a colleague or friend. But instead of celebrating your accomplishment, they quickly respond by talking about their own achievements. "Oh, that's nice. I actually did something similar last year," they might say, or "That's great for you. But have you seen the project I just completed? It was a huge success." In these moments, the person doesn't acknowledge your achievement, but instead tries to shift the focus onto their own success. This can leave you feeling deflated or frustrated because the person doesn't seem to genuinely care about your success. This type of response is often motivated by underlying feelings of insecurity. The person may not consciously realize it, but when they hear about your accomplishments, it may evoke feelings of inadequacy or jealousy. Instead of celebrating your success, they feel the need to one-up you, to prove to themselves and others that they are equally or more successful than you. In their eyes, your achievement becomes a reflection of their own perceived shortcomings. If you're successful, it inadvertently highlights their own failures or feelings of not measuring up. As a result, they engage in silent competition, trying to show that they are better or more accomplished, even if it means diminishing your success. For example, in a professional setting, consider a situation where you've worked hard on a project and received praise from your boss or colleagues. You may feel a sense of pride and accomplishment, but when you share the news with a colleague who has a history of competing with you, they might respond by talking about their own project or contribution. Even if they don't explicitly say, "I did better than you," their attempt to shift the spotlight onto themselves can make you feel like your success is being downplayed or overshadowed. This subtle shift in focus is a clear indication of silent competition. The dynamics of silent competition can be more difficult to navigate because it often appears to be innocent. The person competing with you may not express their feelings openly, and they may not even realize they're doing it. They may genuinely believe that their response is just a natural part of the conversation, or that they're simply sharing their own experiences. However, for the person on the receiving end, these responses can feel dismissive and deflating. They create an underlying sense of rivalry where none may have existed before, leading to feelings of frustration and alienation. Silent competition is particularly dangerous because it often undermines trust and camaraderie without the victim realizing why. In many cases, the individual engaging in silent competition doesn't see themselves as a rival, but as someone who is simply sharing their own experiences. However, the effect on the person being competed with can be isolating. Over time, the accumulation of these small, competitive exchanges can chip away at a relationship, making the person feel unsupported or even unsupported in their achievements. This subtle erosion of trust can create an emotional distance between individuals, leaving one person feeling constantly in competition, even when they didn't expect to be. Carl Jung's theory of the shadow provides a useful lens through which to understand silent competition. The shadow, as Jung explains, is the part of ourselves that we repress or deny our flaws, insecurities, and anything that doesn't align with our idealized self-image. It represents the aspects of ourselves that we are often unwilling to acknowledge. When we witness someone else's success, it can stir up feelings of inadequacy because their achievement serves as a mirror that reflects back to us our own perceived deficiencies. Instead of confronting these feelings directly, the person might project their own sense of insecurity onto others through subtle competitive behaviors. For example, someone who feels they are not successful enough may react negatively to your achievements, not because they wish to hurt you, but because your success highlights the gap between where they are in life and where they believe they should be. Jung believed that when we are unable to accept certain aspects of ourselves, we project those feelings onto others, which can manifest in various behaviors, including competition. The person engaging in silent competition may feel threatened by your success, but instead of addressing their own insecurities, they respond by trying to one-up you or diminish your accomplishments. This projection of their inner turmoil onto you is a way of coping with feelings of inadequacy. In many cases, silent competition is not about actively wanting to harm the other person. It is more about the individual's struggle with their own self-worth. The person engaging in silent competition may deeply admire you, but can't bear the idea of being outdone by you. They feel a need to maintain a sense of superiority or control, so they compete with you in ways that may not be immediately obvious, but are felt nonetheless. They may constantly seek to prove their worth, not because they want to show you up, but because they're trying to soothe their own anxieties about their achievements or lack thereof. Another example of silent competition can occur within families. Siblings, for instance, often experience this dynamic, even if the competition is not overtly expressed. One sibling might receive praise for their academic achievements, and the other might respond with a story about their own accomplishments, whether it's related to work, relationships, or hobbies. In these situations, the competition can feel like an unconscious reflex rather than an intentional act. The sibling who feels overshadowed might not even realize that they are engaging in competition, but their responses reveal a deeper desire to gain validation and recognition. They may feel that their success is always secondary to the accomplishments of others, and they respond by trying to one-up their sibling in subtle ways. Silent competition can also manifest in friendships. For instance, one friend might consistently outshine the other in social situations, whether through looks, achievements, or even popularity. The friend who feels overshadowed may not express their jealousy directly, but instead, they may subtly undermine the other's success or shift the focus of conversations toward their own accomplishments. This kind of behavior is especially difficult to confront because it can be interpreted as harmless or even as a natural part of friendly banter. However, over time, it can create feelings of competition and resentment, even when the friendship itself isn't openly antagonistic. The key to recognizing silent competition is understanding the emotional undercurrents that drive it. The person engaging in silent competition is often struggling with their own feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. Instead of celebrating the achievements of others, they view success as a zero-sum game, where one person's victory equals another person's loss. This mindset is often rooted in a lack of self-esteem and the inability to see success as something that can be shared. For those caught in silent competition, it's not enough to acknowledge someone else's success. They feel compelled to prove that they are equally worthy of recognition. Navigating silent competition requires a deep level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. It's important to recognize the signs of silent competition in yourself and others, and to address the underlying insecurities that drive this behavior. For the person on the receiving end of silent competition, it's crucial to maintain a strong sense of self-worth and to understand that the competitive behavior is more about the other person's insecurities than about your own value. By recognizing silent competition for what it is, a projection of someone else's unresolved issues, you can avoid internalizing their behaviors and continue to celebrate your own successes without guilt or fear. Silent competition is a subtle but powerful force that can quietly undermine relationships and self-esteem, whether in personal or professional settings. It's important to recognize the signs of silent competition and to address the deeper insecurities that drive this behavior. By understanding that this form of competition is not about you, but rather a reflection of the other person's internal struggles, you can navigate these dynamics with greater awareness and protect your own sense of self-worth. Superficial support is a phenomenon that many people encounter in their relationships, especially when dealing with individuals who outwardly appear to care for them, but their actions speak a different story. This behavior often goes unnoticed because it is camouflaged by words and gestures that seem caring at first glance, but upon closer examination, reveal a lack of genuine investment. People who offer superficial support often display interest in your life during casual conversations, expressing concern or congratulating you on achievements. But when you actually need them during moments of true hardship or challenge, they're conspicuously absent or indifferent. This type of support is not rooted in deep emotional connection or a genuine desire to see you succeed. It's more about maintaining a facade of care without the actual willingness to invest time or energy into your well-being. For example, imagine you've been going through a tough time at work. Maybe you've been facing a series of challenges that are weighing on you, and you reach out to a close friend for support. When you share your concerns, they might respond with generic phrases like, "That sounds tough. I'm sure you'll figure it out," and then quickly change the subject. At first, you might dismiss this as a momentary lapse or busy schedule. But over time, you begin to notice that this pattern repeats itself. Every time you need them, they offer no real assistance. Whether it's emotional support, advice, or just a comforting presence, they're simply not there when you need them most. The same friend, however, might be very quick to praise you when things are going well for you, offering congratulations and showing enthusiasm for your successes. This kind of behavior can leave you feeling confused, as it's difficult to reconcile the outward expressions of support with the lack of genuine care during difficult times. The key to understanding superficial support lies in the contrast between words and actions. When someone offers superficial support, they're not genuinely engaging with your emotions or struggles. They might say all the right things, but their lack of follow-through speaks volumes. When you share your success with them, they may offer praise, but it's often shallow and lacks the depth of true appreciation. The support they give you is more about maintaining an image of being caring or supportive, rather than actually being there for you when it matters most. This lack of emotional connection can make you feel isolated, especially when you start to realize that they're not providing the support you need, despite their outwardly caring attitude. A particularly telling example of superficial support can be seen in relationships where one person seems to be constantly present when everything is going smoothly, but disappears when difficulties arise. Take the example of a friend who is always eager to celebrate your successes with you, whether it's a promotion, an accomplishment, or a personal victory. They might post about your achievements on social media, send congratulatory texts, or make grand gestures of praise. However, when you go through a difficult time, such as dealing with personal struggles, work stress, or family issues, they're nowhere to be found. They might not reach out, offer help, or even provide a listening ear. This stark contrast between their behavior during times of happiness and hardship highlights the superficial nature of their support. They're more interested in the appearance of being supportive rather than actually offering meaningful assistance. This kind of superficiality can be emotionally draining. Over time, you may begin to question the authenticity of the relationship. You may wonder whether the person truly cares about you, or if they're just playing a role, offering empty support when it's convenient or when it benefits them. This is particularly damaging because it undermines the trust and connection that are supposed to form the foundation of any meaningful relationship. The person offering superficial support may not realize the impact of their behavior on you. They may see their casual congratulatory remarks as sufficient, not recognizing that real support requires more than just words. It requires presence, attention, and a genuine willingness to help. Carl Jung's theory of dissociation offers an insightful explanation for why some people are prone to offering superficial support. Dissociation, in Jungian terms, refers to a psychological mechanism where individuals emotionally disconnect from others or from their own feelings in order to avoid confronting painful or uncomfortable emotions. This mechanism is often unconscious, and those who dissociate may not even be aware that they are emotionally detached from others. In a context of superficial support, dissociation manifests as a lack of emotional engagement or a failure to form meaningful connections with others. When someone is unable or unwilling to emotionally connect with you, their support tends to be shallow and unhelpful. They might say they care, but they don't demonstrate any effort to truly understand or support you during difficult times. This emotional disconnection stems from their inability to engage with their own feelings of vulnerability, discomfort, or fear. In other words, they may be so focused on protecting themselves from their own emotional pain that they struggle to offer genuine support to others. This detachment can make them appear caring on the surface, but their lack of deeper emotional involvement prevents them from being there for you when you need them the most. For example, consider a family member who is always there during celebratory moments, but disappears when you need help. When you achieve something significant, such as buying a house or getting married, they're eager to offer their congratulations, perhaps even going out of their way to buy you a gift or throw a party. However, when you experience a personal setback, such as the loss of a job or a health issue, they're strangely absent. They might not even reach out to check on you, let alone offer practical help or emotional support. Their inability to engage with your pain or struggles is rooted in their emotional detachment. Rather than confront the discomfort of your situation, they disconnect emotionally, offering only superficial gestures of support when things are easy or enjoyable. This behavior can be particularly confusing because it doesn't necessarily come from a place of malice. The person may genuinely care about you, but lacks the emotional capacity to support you in meaningful ways. Their dissociation prevents them from fully connecting with your experiences. And as a result, their support remains shallow and unhelpful. This creates a one-sided dynamic where you may feel unsupported, isolated, or even dismissed when you're going through tough times. While they continue to maintain an appearance of being a supportive friend or family member when things are going well. The pattern of superficial support can also be exacerbated by a person's own emotional baggage or inability to confront their own vulnerabilities. If someone is unable to deal with their own emotional issues, they may project this emotional avoidance onto their relationships, offering only the most minimal support when faced with someone else's struggles. They may view emotional involvement as too burdensome or uncomfortable, opting instead to offer quick fixes or shallow affirmations that don't require much effort or emotional investment. Another aspect of superficial support is that it can create a sense of emotional imbalance in the relationship. When you're constantly giving emotional energy and support to someone who does not reciprocate in the same way, it can lead to feelings of exhaustion and frustration. You may begin to feel as though you're carrying the emotional weight of the relationship on your own, while the other person is simply going through the motions of offering support without truly being there for you. This imbalance can cause resentment over time, as you may feel that your needs are not being met, even though you've been supportive of them in the past. It's also important to recognize that superficial support can be harmful in professional settings as well. In the workplace, employees might experience superficial support from colleagues or superiors who give lip service to their success but do not offer tangible help when needed. For instance, a boss might praise an employee for a job well done in a meeting, but when that employee is struggling with a project or facing a personal crisis, the boss is nowhere to be found. This lack of follow-through on support can undermine morale and leave employees feeling disconnected from the organization or their superiors. It creates a culture where people are more concerned with appearances than with fostering genuine connections or providing meaningful help. Superficial support, whether in personal or professional relationships, is ultimately unsatisfying because it lacks the depth and authenticity that are essential for real emotional connection. While offering kind words or gestures may seem supportive on the surface, it is the depth of engagement, empathy, and willingness to be present during both the good and bad times that truly defines genuine support. When someone's support is superficial, it can lead to feelings of disappointment, loneliness, and disillusionment. It is crucial to recognize the signs of superficial support and understand the emotional dynamics that drive this behavior in order to protect oneself from becoming emotionally depleted by these shallow interactions. Recognizing superficial support requires developing a keen sense of awareness about the actions and behaviors of others. It involves paying attention to whether the person is truly present for you when you need them, or if they are only showing up when it's convenient for them. It also means acknowledging your own emotional needs and being willing to set boundaries with individuals who offer only surface-level support. Ultimately, genuine support requires vulnerability, emotional engagement, and a willingness to be present in both moments of joy and hardship. When these qualities are lacking, the support offered remains superficial, leaving the person who seeks help feeling unsupported and emotionally isolated. Control disguised as caring is one of the most manipulative yet subtle behaviors that can exist in relationships. Often difficult to identify, this dynamic manifests when someone pretends to offer guidance, support, or advice, but in reality, they're trying to control your decisions, actions, and even your life choices. It typically comes under the guise of concern, as though the person is simply looking out for you, wanting what's best for you, or guiding you in the right direction. However, when you dig a little deeper, you realize that their advice often comes with an implicit agenda to make you feel incapable or uncertain about your own decisions. The result is a sense of dependency and confusion, where you may start doubting your own abilities to make decisions and feel as though you cannot be trusted to handle your own life. In many cases, the person offering this help may not even be fully aware of the control they are exerting over you. They may believe they're simply being helpful, giving you the benefit of their wisdom, or steering you away from what they perceive to be a mistake. But their behavior undermines your confidence, often making you feel that you are not capable of making your own choices without their input. They may subtly suggest, "Well, I think you should do this instead," or "Are you sure that's the best choice?" They could even begin to alter your plans, propose alternatives without respecting your wishes, or even dismiss your preferences as not good enough. Over time, this can lead you to question your own judgment and feel insecure about your decisions, ultimately making you more dependent on their approval and control. Take, for example, a situation where you're making a significant decision in your life, such as choosing a career path, moving to a new city, or making a personal investment. You might seek advice from someone you trust, only to find that their advice consistently undermines your confidence in your choices. Perhaps you've decided to take a job offer in a different city, excited for the new opportunity. However, the person you turn to for guidance starts pushing their own preferences onto you, saying things like, "I really think you should stay here. You're doing fine where you are. It's too risky to move. You're not ready for that change." They may present this as concern for your well-being, but their words are filled with doubt and a lack of respect for your own judgment. This constant undermining can leave you feeling unsure about what you truly want, and over time, you may begin deferring to their opinion instead of trusting yourself. In another scenario, imagine that you've been dating someone for a while, and the relationship is becoming more serious. You've made some decisions about your future together, but your partner constantly offers unsolicited advice about what you should do, how you should act, or what you should believe. Every decision, no matter how small, becomes subject to their helpful suggestions. "Maybe you should do it this way," or "Why don't you think about it from my perspective?" These comments might be masked as concern, but they subtly chip away at your independence and the ability to make choices that align with your own values and needs. Over time, this can make you feel trapped, as though you cannot move forward in your relationship without their constant input and approval. The person who engages in this kind of control often justifies their actions by saying they're doing it for your benefit. They may claim that they know what's best for you because they have more experience or because they care so much about your happiness. This is where the manipulation lies. The more they tell you that they're just looking out for you, the more they disempower you. Their version of what is best for you is really just an extension of their own desires and preferences, which may not actually be in line with your true wants or needs. This type of behavior often leads to a relationship dynamic where the person on the receiving end feels suffocated and unable to make decisions on their own without second-guessing themselves. For example, consider a situation where someone is constantly telling you that they know the best way for you to achieve your goals, whether it's in your career, personal life, or even hobbies. They may begin by offering advice, and at first, it might seem helpful. But over time, you start to notice that their advice always aligns with their own preferences and viewpoints. When you make a decision that goes against their advice, they might act hurt or disappointed, making you feel guilty for not following their suggestions. This manipulation of guilt is a common tactic used by individuals who exert control under the guise of caring. The constant suggestion that they know better creates an environment where you no longer trust your own instincts or feel confident in your ability to make decisions without their approval. This can lead to a toxic cycle where the individual's influence over you increases and your own independence diminishes. You begin to rely on their opinions more and more, even in situations where it would be perfectly reasonable for you to make decisions on your own. Over time, you may start to feel like you can't function without their input, and your confidence and sense of autonomy may be severely undermined. This dependency doesn't come from a place of genuine need or mutual respect. It comes from a place of manipulation, where the controlling individual subtly erodes your belief in your own abilities and judgment. Carl Jung's concept of dissociation provides a crucial framework for understanding why some people might engage in this kind of controlling behavior. Dissociation is a psychological defense mechanism in which individuals disconnect from their emotions or internal conflicts in order to avoid dealing with painful or uncomfortable feelings. People who dissociate from their emotions may project their internal chaos onto others, attempting to control external situations in order to feel a sense of stability and order in their lives. For those who cannot manage their own emotional conflicts or inner turmoil, controlling others becomes a way to alleviate their own feelings of anxiety or insecurity. By exerting control over others, they attempt to create a sense of order and certainty in a world that feels unpredictable or threatening to them. This need to control can stem from a deep fear of vulnerability, failure, or the inability to deal with their own emotional struggles. By controlling others, they deflect attention away from their own internal chaos and create an illusion of power and stability. Consider the example of a person who has unresolved issues with self-esteem or emotional instability. They may feel deeply insecure about their own abilities and choices. In an attempt to cope with these feelings, they project their own doubts and fears onto others by controlling their decisions. They might offer constant advice or make passive-aggressive remarks about the other person's choices, subtly convincing them that they are incapable of making their own decisions. The controlling person doesn't recognize that their behavior is rooted in their own fear and insecurity. Instead, they justify it as helping or looking out for the other person, believing that they know what's best for them. In doing so, they avoid confronting their own emotional issues and perpetuate a cycle of control and manipulation. One of the key reasons people engage in this kind of behavior is the desire to maintain power or a sense of superiority. In relationships, this power dynamic can be subtle but highly effective. The person exerting control may feel a sense of satisfaction or relief when they successfully influence another person's decisions, because it gives them a feeling of importance or validation. They may also fear that if the other person were to make independent decisions, they would lose their sense of control or influence over the relationship. The more this dynamic plays out, the more the person being controlled may start to feel as though they are losing their sense of self. They may become more dependent on the controlling person for guidance, constantly second-guessing their own decisions and needing approval before moving forward. This type of emotional manipulation can lead to feelings of confusion, frustration, and even resentment, as the person being controlled becomes aware of the underlying power struggle. Recognizing control disguised as caring requires a sharp awareness of both the actions and the underlying motivations of the person in question. If someone consistently tries to guide your decisions, oversteps boundaries by offering unsolicited advice, or makes you feel incapable of handling your own life, it's important to question the true intentions behind their behavior. Genuine care and concern for another person's well-being should come with respect for their autonomy and decisions, not with an underlying motive to dominate or manipulate. In some cases, it may be necessary to set boundaries with individuals who engage in this behavior. This can be challenging, especially if the person has been a significant part of your life. But it's crucial for your own emotional well-being. Learning to assert your independence and trust your own judgment is key to breaking free from the cycle of control. This might involve having difficult conversations, explaining how their actions have made you feel, and establishing clear boundaries that protect your ability to make your own decisions. In conclusion, control disguised as caring is a subtle but damaging form of manipulation. By masking their need for control under the guise of concern and advice, individuals who engage in this behavior create a dynamic where the other person feels disempowered and uncertain. Understanding the psychological mechanisms behind this behavior, such as Jung's theory of dissociation, helps shed light on why some people resort to controlling others in an attempt to manage their own internal chaos. Recognizing and addressing this behavior is essential for maintaining healthy, balanced relationships and reclaiming one's autonomy. Criticism and gossip are powerful tools used by people to undermine others, particularly when they are unable or unwilling to confront their feelings of resentment or jealousy directly. These behaviors often emerge when someone is harboring negative emotions toward you but lacks the courage or capacity to express them openly. Instead, they resort to talking behind your back, spreading rumors or criticism in a way that damages your reputation and isolates you from others. While this form of indirect aggression might not be immediately noticeable, its effects can be deeply damaging, often leading to confusion, alienation, and a breakdown of trust in your relationships. One of the most insidious aspects of criticism and gossip is how it operates in the shadows. Rather than addressing their issues directly with you, those who engage in gossip will talk about you to others, distorting the truth or exaggerating details in a way that casts you in a negative light. This could take the form of telling lies, sharing private information without consent, or even twisting your words and actions to create a narrative that is far removed from reality. The goal of this behavior is not to seek resolution or improve the situation, but to manipulate how others perceive you in order to weaken your standing in the social or professional group. Take, for example, a situation in a workplace where a colleague begins acting distant or cold toward you without any clear reason. You might notice that they avoid eye contact, give you curt responses, or fail to engage with you as they once did. This change in behavior might puzzle you, but what you may not realize at first is that they've been talking behind your back to other colleagues, spreading false or exaggerated rumors about you. Maybe they've told others that you're difficult to work with, that you take credit for things that aren't yours, or that you've made mistakes that you didn't actually make. These rumors may not be immediately obvious, but over time, they erode the trust others have in you and create a sense of division. Once the gossip starts spreading, the damage is done. Even if the people involved later realize that the rumors were false or exaggerated, the seed of doubt has been planted. People may start to distance themselves from you, subtly or overtly, even if they don't fully believe the gossip. This alienation can be especially painful because it often comes without an explanation. The person gossiping about you might never confront you directly with their grievances, choosing instead to sully your reputation behind your back, creating a narrative that others might believe simply because it's presented in a way that seems credible or authoritative. In many cases, the person spreading gossip or criticism may not even recognize the harm they're causing. They may justify their actions by telling themselves that they are simply sharing the truth, or that they're just venting about their frustrations. But the reality is that gossip is rarely about finding a solution or improving a situation. It is often about gaining social power by putting others down and creating division. The gossip can be an attempt to elevate oneself at the expense of another person, and the motivation behind it is often rooted in deeper feelings of insecurity, inadequacy, or envy. For example, a friend who feels threatened by your achievements might start making negative comments about you to mutual acquaintances. They might downplay your success, claim that you didn't deserve the recognition, or even suggest that you're not as competent as you seem. The more they spread these criticisms, the more they attempt to diminish your accomplishments in the eyes of others. This behavior allows them to feel superior, even though their actions are rooted in a deep-seated fear of being overshadowed or replaced. The gossip doesn't just serve to harm you. It provides them with a temporary sense of comfort or relief from their own feelings of inadequacy. The dynamics of criticism and gossip often tie back to Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. Jung defined the shadow as the unconscious part of our personality that we tend to reject or suppress, including the traits, feelings, or desires that we deem undesirable. These parts of ourselves are not inherently bad, but they are often projected onto others when we are unable to integrate them into our self-image. In the case of criticism and gossip, people who engage in these behaviors are often projecting their own unresolved insecurities, jealousy, or inadequacy onto others. They may feel threatened by the success or qualities of another person, and instead of addressing these feelings in themselves, they project them outward by belittling or criticizing the other person. When someone feels that they're not measuring up, whether in terms of career success, personal accomplishments, or social status, they may turn to criticism and gossip as a way of boosting their own self-esteem. By tearing someone else down, they can temporarily alleviate their own feelings of inferiority. Jung suggested that this projection is a defense mechanism that helps protect the ego from painful self-awareness, rather than confronting their own shortcomings. Individuals may engage in criticism and gossip as a way of deflecting attention from their own vulnerabilities and shifting the focus onto someone else. The need to criticize and gossip also stems from a deep desire for validation and social standing. People who feel insecure often use gossip to gain social approval or to align themselves with a particular group. By participating in negative conversations about others, they may feel more accepted or included, as it gives them a sense of belonging or importance within that social circle. The act of putting someone else down, even indirectly, becomes a way of asserting power and securing a place in the social hierarchy. This is particularly evident in environments like workplaces, schools, or even social media circles, where the desire to fit in or gain favor can drive individuals to engage in harmful gossip. In many cases, the person doing the gossiping doesn't recognize how deeply their words affect others. The need to be part of a group, to gain attention, or to alleviate personal discomfort may blind them to the harm they are causing. They may convince themselves that they're only venting or just sharing information, not realizing that their words are contributing to a culture of mistrust and division. Gossip doesn't just affect the person being targeted. It also impacts the relationships and dynamics within a group. It creates an atmosphere of suspicion and negativity, where everyone is cautious about what they say, fearful of being the next target. Take a closer look at the workplace environment. Gossip can run rampant in offices where people feel the need to compete for attention, recognition, or promotions. A colleague who feels overlooked or undervalued might begin to spread rumors about another colleague's competence or work ethic. This behavior not only hurts the person being talked about, but it also creates a toxic atmosphere where no one feels safe. People begin to question each other's motives and loyalty, and trust erodes. Instead of fostering collaboration and camaraderie, the workplace becomes a breeding ground for hostility, all because of the unchecked spread of gossip. This dynamic isn't confined to workplaces, it's also present in personal relationships. A friend who feels left behind by your success or happiness may gossip about you to others in an attempt to diminish your achievements. They may claim that your success is due to luck, favoritism, or some other unfair advantage, thereby trying to discredit you. The person gossiping about you may not even realize that they are projecting their own sense of inadequacy onto you. By making you appear less deserving, they temporarily alleviate their own discomfort or jealousy. However, this comes at the cost of your reputation and emotional well-being. Over time, the cycle of gossip and criticism can have a corrosive effect on your mental health. It's difficult to maintain confidence when others are constantly talking behind your back. And it's even harder when those who spread rumors are people you trust or consider close to you. The emotional toll of being the subject of gossip can lead to feelings of isolation, self-doubt, and confusion. It can make you question your actions, your behavior, and even your relationships with others. People who engage in gossip don't just affect the person being talked about, they also create an environment where no one feels secure and everyone becomes a potential target. To cope with criticism and gossip, it's important to recognize the signs of projection and understand the underlying dynamics at play. When you find yourself the subject of gossip, take a step back and try to assess the situation objectively. The criticisms or rumors being spread are likely more about the person spreading them than about you. Their need to tear you down comes from a place of insecurity or fear, not from a genuine concern about your actions. Understanding this can help you avoid internalizing the negative things being said about you and allow you to focus on what truly matters: your own growth and well-being. In some cases, it may be necessary to confront the person who is engaging in gossip. This can be a difficult and uncomfortable process, But it's important to address the behavior directly in order to protect your own boundaries and maintain your integrity. By standing up for yourself and addressing the issue, you can send a clear message that gossip and criticism are not acceptable and that you will not tolerate being undermined. Ultimately, the most important thing to remember when dealing with criticism and gossip is that you are not responsible for the negative actions of others. People who engage in gossip are often struggling with their own issues and projecting them onto you. By recognizing this dynamic and maintaining a strong sense of self, you can weather the storm of gossip and continue to grow without being swayed by the negativity of others. Lack of joy in your successes is one of the most disheartening signs of a relationship that is not as supportive or healthy as it may seem on the surface. When someone close to you cannot celebrate your achievements or share in your joy, it signals a deeper issue. It's not just a matter of indifference. It reflects a subconscious struggle within the person that prevents them from experiencing genuine happiness for you. Instead of feeling joy and pride for your success, they might dismiss your accomplishment, downplay its significance, or even act uncomfortable in the face of your achievement. This lack of enthusiasm is often rooted in feelings of jealousy, inadequacy, and unaddressed insecurity. Imagine a situation where you've just completed a challenging project at work, one that took a great deal of time and effort. You're eager to share the news with a close friend or colleague, hoping for some validation or excitement. But when you tell them about your success, they offer a lukewarm response. "That's nice," they might say, without the enthusiasm you had expected. Or worse, they quickly change the subject and move on to talk about something else entirely. This reaction is not just a minor lapse in social grace, it's a reflection of something deeper, something psychological that prevents them from genuinely rejoicing in your success. This lack of joy isn't always obvious at first, and often it can be brushed off as a simple misunderstanding or a bad day. However, if it happens consistently, it points to a significant issue. The person close to you is either unable or unwilling to celebrate your success because it somehow threatens their own sense of worth. In their eyes, your achievement becomes a reminder of what they have not yet accomplished, which triggers feelings of jealousy, resentment, and inadequacy. Instead of sharing in the excitement, they might feel upset or uncomfortable that they're not experiencing the same level of success, and this discomfort is projected onto you by their lack of enthusiasm. Take another example. You've just been promoted at work, and you're eager to tell a friend about the recognition you've received. You share the news, expecting congratulations, but instead, you're met with a dismissive comment like, "Well, I guess you deserved it, but I'm sure I'll get something better soon." Their response minimizes your accomplishment and shifts the focus away from you. This isn't just about them being rude or inattentive, it's about how deeply your success makes them feel inferior. In that moment, instead of celebrating with you, they're focused on their own feelings of inadequacy and their inability to experience the same recognition or success. Their response may be quick and seemingly harmless, but it stems from a place of insecurity, where they feel that your success somehow diminishes their own worth. People who cannot feel joy for others' success often struggle with deep-rooted issues of self-esteem. They may have internalized feelings of inadequacy or inferiority that prevent them from being able to share in the happiness of others. These feelings can arise from a variety of sources: childhood experiences, past failures, social comparisons, or societal pressures. Whatever the source, the result is the same. They are unable to genuinely celebrate your achievements because doing so would require them to confront their own feelings of insecurity and lack of accomplishment. The inability to rejoice in someone else's success is often a reflection of jealousy, and jealousy can be a powerful and destructive force in relationships. It's not just about wanting what someone else has, it's about feeling that your own worth is diminished in comparison to theirs. This is where the psychological underpinnings of jealousy come into play. When someone cannot rejoice in your success, it's because they feel threatened by it. They are reminded of what they lack in their own life, and rather than confronting that feeling, they project it outward and make it about you. They may not even realize they are doing it, but their discomfort around your achievements speaks volumes. Jealousy, as Carl Jung would explain, is closely tied to the concept of the shadow, which represents the unconscious parts of ourselves that we reject or repress because they don't fit into our idealized image of who we want to be. Jung argued that the shadow is not inherently negative. It consists of all the things we have disowned in ourselves, including our weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and insecurities. However, when we fail to acknowledge and integrate these parts of ourselves, they can manifest in unhealthy ways, such as jealousy and resentment. The jealousy we feel when others succeed is often a reflection of the qualities and achievements we feel we lack. Instead of facing our own feelings of inadequacy, we project those feelings onto others, and we cannot bear to celebrate their success because it highlights what we feel we do not have. This projection of jealousy onto others can be especially damaging in close relationships. When someone close to you cannot share in your joy, it creates an emotional distance. Instead of feeling supported and uplifted by the people around you, you feel isolated and unsupported. Their inability to rejoice in your success can make you question the authenticity of the relationship and wonder whether they truly care about you or if their feelings are influenced by envy or insecurity. Over time, this lack of emotional support can erode the foundation of the relationship, making it difficult to feel connected or valued. For example, imagine a sibling who has always been competitive with you. You've worked hard to achieve something significant in your personal or professional life, and you share the news with them, expecting some form of recognition or encouragement. But instead, they respond with a cold or dismissive comment. "Oh, that's nice, but I've already done something like that before," they say, downplaying your success and redirecting the focus back to themselves. Their response doesn't feel like a celebration, it feels like a dismissal. Instead of being happy for you, they turn the spotlight onto their own accomplishments, showing little to no enthusiasm for yours. This behavior is a clear indication that their jealousy is preventing them from truly sharing in your joy. Instead of being proud of you, they feel threatened by your success, which forces them to diminish it in order to protect their own sense of self-worth. The underlying psychological dynamics of jealousy and insecurity are complex, but they often stem from a lack of self-acceptance. People who struggle to celebrate others' successes often have difficulty accepting their own limitations or acknowledging their own areas of growth. Instead of being able to appreciate the achievements of others as separate from their own worth, they see them as a challenge to their self-esteem. This inability to separate their sense of self-worth from external achievements leads to a situation where they feel the need to tear others down in order to feel better about themselves. By refusing to celebrate your success, they maintain a sense of superiority or control over their own emotional landscape, avoiding the discomfort that comes from feeling inferior or inadequate. Jung's theory of the shadow provides a valuable framework for understanding how jealousy works in these situations. The more someone represses their own feelings of inadequacy or failure, the more likely they are to project these feelings onto others. When someone achieves success, it triggers the shadow in the person who is jealous, causing them to feel inferior and threatened. The inability to experience joy for someone else's accomplishments is a defense mechanism against the painful emotions of jealousy and inadequacy. Instead of confronting these feelings directly, they deflect them by devaluing the success of others. This behavior is not limited to personal relationships. It can also occur in professional environments. In a workplace setting, a colleague who cannot rejoice in your success may undermine your achievements in subtle ways, such as belittling your work, downplaying your accomplishments, or even offering backhanded compliments. They might say, "That's impressive for you," or "I'm sure you worked really hard on that," in a tone that suggests they don't genuinely believe it. These comments serve to reduce the value of your success in their eyes and in the eyes of others. This lack of support from those around you can make it harder to feel secure in your achievements and can create an atmosphere of competition rather than collaboration. The inability to rejoice in someone else's success is often linked to deeper feelings of self-doubt and fear of failure. People who struggle with jealousy may have internalized negative beliefs about themselves, believing that they are not as capable, talented, or successful as others. When someone else achieves something that they feel is out of their reach, it exacerbates these feelings of inadequacy, and rather than acknowledging the validity of the other person's success, they diminish it in order to protect themselves from confronting their own vulnerabilities. Addressing the issue of jealousy and the lack of joy in others' successes requires a shift in perspective. The first step is to recognize that jealousy is a natural human emotion and doesn't necessarily have to be destructive. By acknowledging and confronting feelings of jealousy, individuals can begin to integrate these feelings into their self-awareness and allow themselves to feel genuinely happy for others. Instead of seeing someone else's success as a threat, they can choose to view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Embracing a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity, where one person's success doesn't diminish your own, can help alleviate the negative effects of jealousy and encourage healthier, more supportive relationships. In conclusion, when someone close to you cannot share in your joy and success, it is often a reflection of deeper feelings of jealousy and insecurity. Instead of celebrating with you, they diminish your accomplishments as a way to protect their own self-esteem. This lack of joy for others' success can create emotional distance and erode trust in relationships. By understanding the psychological dynamics of jealousy and addressing the underlying feelings of inadequacy, individuals can foster healthier, more supportive connections where both parties can genuinely rejoice in each other's successes. Understanding and recognizing the subtle signs of hidden hostility or negativity in relationships is crucial for protecting yourself from the potentially toxic impact these dynamics can have on your life. Whether it's jealousy, criticism, silent competition, or any other form of indirect aggression, being aware of these behaviors helps you maintain emotional well-being and protect your sense of self-worth. Often, the people closest to us can exhibit these negative behaviors, whether consciously or unconsciously, and the effects can be profound. They can undermine your confidence, erode trust, and create unnecessary emotional stress. Recognizing these signs early can prevent you from becoming entangled in unhealthy relationships that drain your energy and create long-term emotional harm. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is incredibly helpful in understanding these dynamics. The shadow represents the unconscious parts of our psyche, those aspects of ourselves that we reject or suppress because they're uncomfortable, undesirable, or socially unacceptable. These hidden parts of the self often manifest in our behavior, particularly when we feel threatened, insecure, or jealous. When we fail to acknowledge and integrate these parts of ourselves, we tend to project them onto others. This projection often appears as criticism, gossip, silent sabotage, or other forms of negative behavior. Understanding the shadow allows us to recognize these dynamics in others and, more importantly, in ourselves. By becoming aware of the shadow and how it influences our interactions, we can begin to address the root causes of jealousy, insecurity, and other negative behaviors before they take root in our relationships. One of the most important lessons to take away from this exploration is the need for self-awareness. It is essential to listen to our intuition and trust the subtle signals our bodies and minds send us when something feels off in a relationship. If you notice that someone's behavior consistently leaves you feeling drained, uncomfortable, or uncertain, it's essential to pay attention. These feelings are often not random. They are signals that there may be underlying issues at play that need to be addressed. For example, if you constantly feel undermined by a friend or colleague, or if you sense that someone close to you cannot genuinely celebrate your successes, these may be signs of deeper emotional struggles that are being projected onto you. Developing strong self-awareness helps you navigate these complex dynamics without getting swept up in the emotional turmoil that often accompanies toxic relationships. It allows you to set healthy boundaries, protect your emotional space, and avoid getting entangled in the negative behaviors of others. Self-awareness also empowers you to confront your own feelings of jealousy, insecurity, or discomfort so that you don't unintentionally project them onto others. Jung emphasized the importance of integrating the shadow, accepting and embracing those parts of ourselves that we often try to hide. By doing so, we can reduce the unconscious projection of negative feelings onto others, leading to healthier, more authentic relationships. Recognizing these behaviors in others is one part of the equation. The other part is understanding how to handle them effectively. When you identify someone who is engaging in hidden hostility or negative behaviors, it's crucial to protect yourself by setting clear boundaries. Boundaries help you maintain your emotional integrity and prevent others from taking advantage of your kindness, vulnerability, or trust. They can be as simple as limiting the amount of time you spend with certain people, or as direct as confronting someone about their behavior. Either way, setting boundaries is an essential skill in maintaining healthy, balanced relationships. When someone exhibits a pattern of undermining or belittling you, it's vital to address it head-on. This doesn't necessarily mean confronting them in an aggressive or defensive way, but rather communicating your feelings and asserting your boundaries. If a friend or colleague consistently dismisses your successes or minimizes your feelings, you have the right to express how their behavior is impacting you. Often, people are unaware of the harm they are causing, and a direct conversation can lead to greater understanding and resolution. However, if the person continues to engage in harmful behaviors despite your efforts to address it, it may be necessary to reconsider the relationship altogether. Sometimes, distancing yourself from toxic people is the healthiest option. It's also important to recognize when a relationship is no longer serving you, even if that person is someone close to you. This can be particularly difficult with family members, longtime friends, or colleagues with whom you've built a history. However, if a relationship consistently leaves you feeling undervalued, unsupported, or manipulated, it's crucial to prioritize your own mental and emotional health. While you can't control the behavior of others, you can control how you respond to it. Choosing to distance yourself from toxic people, or even ending a relationship entirely, is sometimes the healthiest choice you can make for your well-being. In the context of professional relationships, these dynamics can be particularly challenging because of the hierarchical structures that often exist in workplaces. A colleague or supervisor who engages in subtle sabotage, gossip, or undermines your success can create a toxic work environment, making it difficult to thrive professionally. Recognizing the signs early allows you to address these issues before they escalate and negatively impact your career. It also gives you the ability to protect your reputation and build stronger, more supportive professional relationships. In some cases, addressing the issue with HR or a trusted mentor may be necessary to ensure that you're not unfairly impacted by toxic behaviors in the workplace. At the same time, it's essential to cultivate relationships with people who genuinely celebrate your success, support you through difficult times, and help you grow. Surrounding yourself with positive influences can help mitigate the impact of toxic people. People who genuinely want the best for you will help you become the best version of yourself, without feeling threatened or diminished by your achievements. These are the kinds of relationships that foster mutual respect, trust, and understanding. They offer a safe space for vulnerability and growth, without the fear of judgment or competition. One of the key principles that can help you navigate toxic relationships is the concept of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't mean that you stop caring or that you withdraw from relationships altogether. Rather, it means that you learn to protect your emotional energy from being drained or manipulated. Emotional detachment allows you to observe others' behaviors without becoming overly invested in their reactions or opinions. It helps you maintain a healthy distance from toxic people, so that you don't internalize their negativity or allow their behavior to define your self-worth. Another powerful tool in navigating these dynamics is mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you stay grounded and centered in the present moment, allowing you to make decisions based on your values and priorities rather than reacting emotionally to external pressures. By practicing mindfulness, you can become more aware of your thoughts, feelings, and reactions, which enables you to make healthier choices when it comes to your relationships. It also helps you recognize when you are projecting your own insecurities or negativity onto others, which is just as important as recognizing these behaviors in other people. Ultimately, the most important lesson is to take control of your own emotional landscape. This means learning to trust yourself, honor your feelings, and set boundaries that protect your mental and emotional health. It's about understanding that you don't have to tolerate toxic behaviors in your relationships, and you have the power to remove yourself from situations that drain you. Through greater self-awareness, mindfulness, and a commitment to emotional well-being, you can create a healthier, more fulfilling life by cultivating supportive, positive relationships while distancing yourself from toxic influences. By understanding the hidden dynamics of relationships and how they are often shaped by unconscious feelings of jealousy, insecurity, and the projection of one's shadow, you can develop the skills necessary to protect yourself from negative interactions. Recognizing these behaviors early, setting clear boundaries, and cultivating supportive relationships are essential strategies for maintaining your emotional health and well-being. Always trust your instincts and listen to the subtle signals that your body and mind send you, as these can guide you in making the right decisions about your relationships and protecting your peace of mind. All right, now that we've uncovered these hidden behaviors, it's clear that spotting the signs of subtle hostility and jealousy is essential for protecting yourself in any relationship, whether it's a friend, family member, or colleague. Understanding why someone can't celebrate your success gives you the power to set the right boundaries and prevent emotional harm. You deserve people in your life who genuinely want to see you thrive, people who share your joy, not people who quietly want to tear you down or make you feel small. So, if you've noticed these signs in your own relationships, it's time to take action. Trust your instincts and know that you are worthy of genuine support and celebration. Recognizing toxic behavior is the first step in reclaiming your peace and your emotional energy. What about you? Have you ever experienced someone not being happy for your success? How did you handle it? Let's talk about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. If you found this video valuable, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you content like this. And if you want to show some extra support, don't forget the super thanks. It's a great way to contribute and help us keep delivering these insightful videos. Remember, be aware, set those boundaries, and protect your peace. Don't let anyone's jealousy or insecurity stop you from celebrating your wins. Until next time, stay strong, trust your intuition, and keep shining bright. See you in the next video.